Hello everyone, welcome back to the Budget Sportsman, and thank you so much for joining me on today's video where we are going to be taking a look at some footage I recently captured of some really cool, really big bull elk. Now, if you came here hoping to see me bow in hand out in the Rocky Mountains in the middle of the elk rut, chasing a big bull with a license in my pocket, unfortunately, that's not this video. However, if you would like to see that, there might be something in the works for 2021. So, with that said, what we're looking at in this video though is the elk herd here in central Pennsylvania. Yes, you heard me right. We have an elk herd here in central Pennsylvania. It's highly managed by the Game Commission. We do actually have a hunting season. There's very, very few tags that are available. It's a lottery system. So for most people, they will never get to experience actually hunting elk here in Pennsylvania. But what you can do is you can go and see them and enjoy them. So the town in Pennsylvania that's best known for elk is called Benezet, and it is the heart of the elk herd. In Benezet, there's an elk visitor center where they have a lot of food plots. And when the Game Commission manages the elk hunting season, they don't allow any hunting around that area of the actual visitor center. So elk there are not very pressured. You can go there on just about any night and you will have a pretty good chance of seeing elk that are really not going to be spooked by you. There's usually quite a few people there looking at them. But anyways, with all of that out of the way and the little bit of background, recently my wife and I went there. It's about an hour and a half from where we live, and we actually spent a couple of days and nights up there in the Benezet area. So I wanted to talk you through kind of what happened. I didn't do a lot of narrating on the trip because I wanted to just be able to spend time with my wife without having to worry about making a video for YouTube. But some of the footage was so good that I wanted to share it here anyway. So I'm going to just tell you what happened. So on the first night, we were staying in a little campground called Hicks Run campground. And I had never been there before. And about 2 miles from the campground, there's a elk viewing area that is called the Hicks Run viewing area. Now, I had never been to this particular viewing area before, and it's about 10 to 15 miles from Benezet, where the core of the elk are. But I had heard that there is a lot of elk here and that you could often see them in this visitors area or this viewing area, and I thought there might be a lot less people there, and that turned out to be true. Unfortunately, we didn't see any elk that night, but we did see a lot of great deer coming out into the field, and I'll be showing you some of that footage now. But saw several really nice bucks. Unfortunately, some of them were a little bit too far away to get really good quality footage, just ran out of zoom on the camera. But had a really good time that night. Unfortunately, again, didn't see any elk. The following day, though, however, was much, much better. We kind of started the day just driving around and looking for elk. So the day started at, I believe it's called the Dense Run, or Bent's Run. I'm not sure, I'll put it up on screen. And we pulled in there, and my wife stayed at the vehicle, and I went down to the overlook. Well, right as I got down there, I didn't get anything on footage, but I saw a bull elk coming down through the field and then cut back into the woods. He was bugling, and actually as I stood there for a few minutes, I heard several other bugles, so that was really fun. That was kind of the first excitement that we had in the way of elk. Later in the morning, we were driving around and we actually saw a couple of cow elk right by the road. Again, keep in mind, these are not super spooked by vehicles and people. We're now very close to the actual core of the area. So saw a couple of cow elk. About midday, my wife stayed in the car while our daughter was napping, and I decided to head off onto some state game lands. Now this is public land, free to access, but it's a little bit away from the visitor centers and the overlooks where all the people are. Well, I had an elk cow call and an elk bugle tube with me that I'm trying to learn how to use. You'll hear in a minute, not very well, but I'm trying to learn how to use it. I made it probably 100 yards into the wood line, and I let a bugle rip, and I got a response. Didn't get it on video, but I did get a response. So instead of me trying to explain all this, go ahead and take a look at what happened when I went off into the state game land looking for elk.
Well guys, it's midday here, and my daughter's taking a nap, so I am out here on some state game lands where I know there's going to be some elk in the area. And I just ripped a bugle, and let me just tell you, I practiced cow calls some. I haven't practiced bugles very much at all. I just ripped a bugle and got a response down here in the valley. So my wind's going that way, bull just bugled that way. Let's have some fun, see if we can't get one in. Now here's the deal, if I bugle for you on camera, you have to agree not to make fun of me, okay? I admit I stink. So let's see if we can't get this bull to answer some more. I'm going to sneak out to the edge maybe and see if I can't get him to answer again. there's a bull over there. Either that or another really sorry hunter. So I've heard him bugle twice now. I'm trying to get down on his level. I think he's in this bottom. And instead of trying to call him up to me, I'm going to get down on his level here in the bottom. And I think he's still a couple hundred yards away. So I might try to sneak up a little closer and see if I can't get into his zone, get him to respond a little bit more. Again, respond to my sorry calling. Well, there's some scat that looks way too big to be a deer. And right down here looks to be a wallow. Pretty cool. You guys that are elk hunters, tell me, is this a wallow? Is it just like a bed that he laid in to keep cool? There's not much here in the way of water, but there's definitely tracks, and you know, big old body was laying in there at some point, more than a deer. Last bugle I heard was up this way, so I'm going to see if I can't get him to rip off again. Well, I haven't had a response in quite a while. If I'm going to take a wild guess, I probably moved down in here too quickly. Maybe bumped it off. There was one point where I thought maybe I heard some crashing. Who knows? But it's fun to try. It's certainly fun to try. It's nice to be out here in the woods, making some bugling sounds. And other than you guys, don't really have to worry about what it sounds like. And you know, I'm not actually in a hunting scenario, so I can kind of see if I'm getting a response or not. So that's nice. Well, guys, I hadn't got a response for a while, and I thought I would just walk up here a little farther and see up into this open area, see if I could find him. And took one step, and there he is. That was really cool. In a hunting situation, I just totally ruined that. But hey, at least I got some footage and got... Oh, he's right there. He's still right over there. He's not that far. He heard those cow calls and he came right back. He was behind that big tree. He gave those cow calls. He stepped right back out. Sorry for the shaky footage.
So that experience to me was the highlight of my entire trip. Yes, I know my bugle sounded horrible. I have a lot of work to do before some of these other plans, you know, come together. But the fact that I got in the woods away from all the visitors and actually saw a bull elk out there and located him using my bugle tube, that was a huge thumbs up and the highlight of my trip. So then that evening, what we decided to do is we just decided to make our rounds and go throughout some of the different viewing areas that are set up by the Game Commission. We went back to where I first heard the bugle in the morning, which was the Hicks Run viewing area. We got there, and it wasn't very long after we got there, and elk started coming out into the field. There's a really nice big bull, and he had a herd of maybe, I think, about 8 cows. Shortly after that, a smaller bull came out with a few cows, and pretty much instantly the bigger bull stole those cows from that smaller bull. And for a while, the smaller bull kind of hung out on the edge of the woods, but eventually the bigger bull kind of chased him off and went off into the woods. Even though this viewing area, you're quite a distance from the elk, it's still really neat because we got to see some really neat elk behavior as they were sort of fighting it out there for those cows. They never actually locked antlers or anything like that, but you could just see the behavior of these different elk. From there, we left and we went to another area that's set up to view elk, and it was actually a farm that the Game Commission has bought up. And we hiked a little ways, probably about a half mile back there, and there's a viewing area that's down over this valley with a food plot down there. Again, we weren't there very long before a bull and a cow came out. It was very steep, but quite a ways down below us, but it's actually closer to us in distance. So that was really neat, but then a really nice whitetail buck actually came out as well. So we didn't stay there too long. We walked back out, and as we got back to the road, there was a field on the other side of the road from where we had parked. And as we were coming down, we could just see this huge bull elk, really bright white tines, just coming across that field. And a lot of people were gathered watching this elk. It was absolutely enormous. From there, after watching that elk for a few minutes, we went on to the Winslow Hill overlook viewing area. There wasn't a lot here that was close. There was one fairly small bull elk that was close to the viewing area. And then way across on the other side, there was a couple of bulls you could see way across. And then all of a sudden I noticed all the people that were in these viewing areas turn around and start looking back up toward the road. And turns out there's a big bull standing right there at the intersection of the road. And for me, this was not a super big highlight. There was not a lot to see close, and there's a lot of people here. And then we ended off the night at the actual Benezet Visitor Center viewing area. Now, if you want to be away from the crowds, this is not the place to go. There were a ton of people here, but if you want to see big bull elk and a lot of elk that you're going to be able to get some good footage of, the Visitor Center is the place to go. I mean, you're going to see here on screen, there was an absolute giant bull elk who was bugling, and you could see just saliva coming out of his mouth as he's spitting, and you could just see a lot of really neat behavior. Again, to me, this took it down a little bit of a notch just because there's so many people that go directly to that visitor center, but it is such a great place to see elk. So with that being said, let me just encourage you, if you've never seen an elk, you don't necessarily have to go all the way out west to see an elk if you're from, like me, from the East Coast. You can actually see them right here in central Pennsylvania. And this time of year, though there are a lot of people there visiting, but with the color of the leaves and the elk being in their rutting phase, it is a great time to go, and it's really enjoyable. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up or leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Don't forget, hunting season is opening. Probably when you're watching this, it's opening today, and hopefully pretty soon we're going to be having some hunting content from the whitetail woods here in central Pennsylvania. Until next time, remember to get off YouTube and get outdoors into God's great creation.